and it was low ceilings, and there was literally people hanging from the rafters.
There was no rules back then. It was just like the Wild West.
We had a different monthly every weekend of the month instead of having a weekly.
We really brought a really diverse group.
If we told our crowd it was cool, everyone was going to show up and fuck with it.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me and the Tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales. Sober, why don't you introduce yourself first and then select?
Yo, it's DJ Sober, Dallas, Texas, the party, RIP. We can bring it back.
What's up, DJ Select, Dallas, Texas to New York City.
My guests this week on Roxy's Tales are DJ Sober and DJ Select, and in the Y2K era, formerly known as The Party, alongside DJ Nature, a Dallas, Texas collective, event production, promotion party, and DJ crew. The Party held space for an eclectic mix of genres and people in Dallas and throughout Texas in the mid-Y2K era. I was fortunate to be on the radar of what they were curating back then, pushing culture forward with a love so deep, playing their parties left me in awe. Without further ado, DJ Sober and DJ Select.
It's the fucking party.
How did you guys meet?
Initially, the party itself was started by Nature. It was his brainchild. Select and I really became friends through Select met Nature and was kind of working with him, and I think Nature was the first one to get the OG Serato box and was doing the party by himself under that brand in Denton, and Select was going out there and checking out what he was doing, was really interested. I mean, I'm speaking for him. He can confirm or deny any of this after, but checking out what he was doing, he was definitely doing fresh shit and playing, multiple genres, and Serato was a brand new thing. So Select was going out there weekly and hanging out with him, and he was still working for this local marketing company, handing out promos and stuff. And some of the records that Scott was getting at that time were still we were all of us were using Serato and vinyl once we started the party, but they were useful. And I think he was lacing Nature with some of those and just kind of making his rounds. And so I went out there one time and me and Select chopped it up. We had met previously, years back in the hip hop scene. Select would be around some of the reggae clubs and underground hip hop parties, but we didn't really know each other well. I just knew him because he was always out and about.
What year was that?
Well, the party started in 2006, so I would say that I knew Scott from Scott, late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s, because I was still in high school. I didn't graduate till 2001. So
yeah, so I'd see Scott around at like I said, some underground hip hop shows and just record stores, definitely some record store in stores with artists and things like that. But we really didn't connect until through Nature and around 2006, and that's when Scott and I started hanging out after that point, or connected through what Nature was doing.
Yeah, exactly. So Nature had just moved back to Texas from New York, and Roxy, I'm pretty sure you remember him being around Turntable Lab and the whole crew. So, and at that time, that was the same time when you were really establishing yourself as well in New York. So yeah, Nature just came down, and I just got back into DJing because I went to school for a while, and I was just kind of fucking around, and I started buying records again also. And it just kind of hit me that all this music kind of came together, and Nature came down. Literally, I remember him showing me how to set up a Serato box because he had a skateboard injury or something. And yeah, we just started hanging out. He had this weekly, he was living in Denton, and it just kind of all just connected. It just all kind of worked out. So he just came down and he brought the holotronic sound down, basically. But I was unaware of holotronics. I was unaware of holotronics low budget Diplo, the whole crew, yourself even, because I was like in school and doing something completely different. So yeah, it was just that mix of Dipset to Buju to LCD Sound System to whatever goes. Plus, add on all the Baltimore Club and the Body Funk and I guess what was it? Later turned into electro bangers or Dutch house or whatever it was.
When did you start DJing? When did both of you start DJing?
I started DJing in '93 when I was 16 years old. Probably around the same. I mean, maybe Nature started DJing around the same time. I knew him originally from like the hip hop scene and like turntablist stuff. So Nature used to have like little sessions at his house back in those days, with all the DJs would come through and just like scratch on some super nerdy shit. And then he moved to Denton. I mean, he moved from Denton the first time to Puerto Rico for years, maybe like 6 years. And then he moved to New York. And they had this crazy going away party for him at Rubber Gloves, which is where he initially like full circle came back to and started throwing the party weekly. And like to answer your question, that's kind of like, I feel like the beta party, like it was in Denton. So like there wasn't a ton of people going, but he was playing really good music. And I think he loved the fact that Scott was just like always out and about and in the mix, and Scott knew all these people. And I think that's what originally, and like was just like hip to all the stuff that he was doing and very interested. And I think Nature saw that and was like, yo, we should like team up. So Select and Nature did the very first party monthly in Dallas before I joined forces with them. I remember I did a party right before, it was the month before I brought Clever into town, and Clever wasn't even on Serato yet. He played all vinyl, but he was playing everything from like Hall & Oates to like Atlanta shit to whatever. So it was definitely like, in the same vein of what it was that we became, like we all came to do. So Clever was just like party rocking. I opened up for him, and then that party was really dope. Like there was a good diverse mixture of people. And then the very next month, Select and Nature did the first party at the same spot, Zoo Bar, which is where you played, and it popped the fuck off. And it was like, everybody from every walk of life was under one roof. And I think that's the thing that was so important about the party and so monumental at that time, especially in Dallas. Before that, everything was very separated and segregated in a sense. Like it was strictly a hip hop night or strictly like a house night. There was nobody really crossing genres or just like doing anything where where people could hear all of these things in one place. Musically, I was so on the same page of like getting tired of just the same old thing and seeking all of this other stuff. I had never DJ'd either for anything other than a hobby and just like rocking some parties here and there. So I think that he proposed like me joining forces with him and Select to Scott, and it ended up happening. I really took some of the marketing things like cues that I learned from Red Bull and brought it into like what we were doing. And Scott was already just like killing it on like some street team shit of like himself. So he already knew what it was there. And Nature was more like, he would do a lot of the flyer design and other things with me and Scott. I remember like we would meet at Nature's house. We'd all work, like Nature would work there. Me and Scott would go hit the streets, hit every spot we could, like go talk to people. And like it was a well-oiled machine at one point.
So you guys were throwing the party monthly at this point?
Yeah, it was like what Will was talking about. I started sometime in the 90s. I don't know. I was just buying equipment, just like most kids into hip hop and samples, whatever. I didn't have the money to really get fully into DJing, like buy proper. I didn't even have proper 1200s until I don't even know when, I just never have.
Vinyl, I mean, it's really expensive now, but it was expensive.
Yeah, but like buying 1200s is like out of my reach, and I was on belt drives or whatever. So yeah, there was a point where I quit DJing. I got into other things, and then I don't know. I guess I got the bug in school. But when I was actually DJing and before I quit, I was hanging out like in the West Indian clubs. I was hanging out at the hip hop shows. That's how me and Will had met. So that's how I got my name Select, and that's how I met, you know, a lot of people that Will and I both mutually knew in Dallas. But you know, that was that, and then came back, and then the party was fun and great, and you know, we all done our thing.
How long did this go on?
The party was from 2006 to 2009, and so it all started at Zoo Bar. That was the 21 and up one, and then Nature had this idea to expand. He's like, let's take over Texas. Like, nobody's doing anything in Houston. Damn, that's great with the shirt. Nobody's really doing anything in Austin. But anyways, we expanded and we started doing it in all ages. You played that one later. I think you came down. We did Scion at the Loft, and yeah, there it is. That one. Yeah. So that was really Nature's idea, which was genius, because a lot of those kids, like after the party stopped, like they started coming to Beauty Bar and to my parties because they were like, I was their first, like the party was their first taste of nightlife, because they couldn't get into anywhere else because they were 17 years old or 18 or whatever. So Nature was like, man, let's like market to a younger crowd. And we'd pack it out with like 500-600 kids. And we were like the only thing they could see. And it was something cool for them. So then once 5 years later, they're 21 and they're just barely going to actual bars, and they're coming to like still support us or whatever. So we had that one, and then we had one in Austin at the Mohawk, and then in Houston at Boondocks. So we had a different monthly every weekend of the month instead of having a weekly. So we would travel and we'd be like in Austin one weekend, and then we'd be at All Ages Party Dallas, then we'd be in Houston, and then we'd be at Zoo Bar. So it was like a really cool formula as far as just like really expanding our reach in Texas.
It also worked at that time because this is before like the massive influx of DJs that has happened in the past who knows how many years. So I was guilty of being part of that because, you know, I went on Serato and I didn't need vinyl anymore. We're downloading MP3s and oh my God, terrible versions off of YouTube or whatever we can get our hands on. There was no rules back then. It was just like the Wild West. It worked out really well at that time. It was a great vibe.
I remember like, you know, the first party I played with Select and Nature and having all these like Be More tracks and stuff that I had downloaded and, you know, just up tempo, like route songs, but some of them would be like 2 minutes long. Right. And I was so freaked out because I'm like, I wasn't like fully familiar with every record. And so like, I was like, yo, what if I don't find something in time to mix out of this? Because it was just like all new and exciting, but I think that's what even made it better. One thing I wanted to add, I know you remember this. So you came to town and I want to say that you played all vinyl when you played at Zoo Bar the first time, and you played Rod Lee, Dance My Pain Away, and you were floored that everyone in the whole building sang it like word for word. This like song that wasn't even from our region. And that was another thing, as us kind of educating people on the music. And with our blog, with the Central Booking blog spot, we would do the En La Calle series, like in the streets, and we would each like pick tracks each week and we would put those on there where people could download them, and we would like make songs hot because we were putting them on. Like, I mean, it was a blog, right? That's what you do as a blogger, but we really had like people checking for it. And we really like turned people onto this music that they had never heard, like Black Star and all that, like hands up, thumbs down was like, we called our all ages party Hands Up, and like people went insane for that stuff.
So what were the other artists you guys were booking to come? You mentioned some.
Well, yeah, Titsworth, we booked Black Star, Rai. We booked Ricky Blaze, Flostradamus, Cool Kids, Crames, Scott, you can jump in it. It's Pace Rock.
And then we were also, when we had the 18 and up party, we were able to piggyback with AEG events.
Yes.
So they were the ones. So since we had such an underground buzz, they allowed us to And at the time, whoever was in charge of it, she was just like, hey, you guys sound great. And it's like a perfect fit. So we were also getting like Justice after parties. Shit, I don't know, whoever else was big at the time. Whatever else was really big in like the electro.
Yeah. MIA after parties, Justice.
Boys Noise maybe, or who?
I
LA
remember,
Riots. LA Riots.
Yeah, you and I did like Rat Attack, Cut Copy, Presets.
Yeah.
A lot of shit, like anything indie dance and electro, and definitely like Dave Nada, and
We just became the guys. So like anything cool that was coming into the city and they would need an opener, it was, we were going to be 100 times better than the person they already had in house. And it was all new to everybody too. So in Texas, like think about how many people live there and how many people live here now, and the dynamic of people. It's a dull, flat city. So it was an easy thing that we did, and it just really shook the city. So yeah, Cut Copy comes down, have the party. Rat Attack comes, have the party. You know what I mean? Like it was just like a no-brainer, because we're gonna play fun music the whole time and bring a crowd, and
Yeah, also to Select's point, I think, and also to the point earlier about it being very divided and being like, oh, it's straight hip hop or whatever. He said we shook the city up. We really did. We made a lot of people come out of the woodwork. So there was DJs that were like, we're gonna retire, and saw what we did, and they were like, damn. And like there was so many DJs that were like kind of tired, and they started a blog, and they would start trying to play music similar to us, but they couldn't keep up. Like they'd do it, but they weren't consistent. They wouldn't post on their blog for 2 months or whatever. And we were like on it. Like we had 3 members, but we also had like a team of people. And I think that we really just like, we were serious about it.
We set a new precedent to like to the city. And since then, I feel like it's changed. Also, technology has changed and everything. So it was like the right time and the right fit and the right moment that what we had. And like I was super young and I just wanted to rage every single night. You remember these photos? Like, I mean.
So what other blogs and message boards were you on?
I think I was just on Holotronics most of the time when I would go online like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember. Like Holotronics for like, this song's released, this song's not. Because it was, don't forget, it was like a fun gathering, but it was such an elite little clique of people, and who knows who and who's down with who.
There's a blog that's based in Dallas, but was and they're still around. They were one of the bigger indie blogs. It's Gorilla versus Bear, and the first thing Scott and I did for them was that Rat-a-tat after party I mentioned. That was 2006, and then I remember after that DJing their South by parties for years to come. But me and Scott did the first one, and a lot of their South by parties were they discovered a lot of people and put people on. I did it one year by myself, and Grimes was the opener, and there was literally like 11 people there to see her. Gorilla versus Bear found her, and at the Toro y Moi headlined that one. At the end of the day, they were like, what'd you think of the show? And I was like, dude, I really fucked with that first girl. And they're like, oh, Grimes from Canada. Yeah, she's like so good. But there was like 10 to 15 people there to see her. And it was like at noon, and the thing ended at like late at night with Toro y Moi, and like no one knew who she was. But Gorilla versus Bear was somebody that was a supporter of us. And like, we also did a lot of things like that in the indie world. Like they would have us do shows for them. We would do South by stuff for them.
Where else were you guys going? Like, I mean, you were touring other national parties throughout America, or?
No,
we like,
I was going to say like, we were focused so much on Texas. Yeah. And we also weren't producers. Like some kids were bedroom producers who turned DJs. We were just DJs, right? So, everybody was getting bookings was either in New York or in LA, traveling to other small markets like Dallas. I was just running up here to New York and doing gigs with friends. I know Will was doing the same thing. He was going to LA or whatever. Nature, I think, was just based in Texas for the most part, but no, not at that time. I think we were all just kind of, because like Will said, we had 3-4 monthlies a month, and we had our own little pop-ups, and we had our own little things here and there, and then we'd have an event, or some weeks would be really busy.
We did bring a lot of people to Texas, and we did put a lot of people on, and Texas is a big place. So I think like, I mean, everybody in that scene knew about us. It's just like maybe their crowd, like their crowds didn't know us about us.
Also, you know, the vibe, Roxy, like at that time it was like, you know, and Will, for example, was like really good friends with everybody from that scene, like Mike 2600, Clausen, you know, Pace Rock. Like I didn't keep relationships with those people. But you know, that kind of fell more in Will's area. But like it was kind of, you know, everything back then was like a homie thing. Like we all know the people from each city, you know what I mean? Like, right? Like everybody kind of knew each other and it was like a vibe.
Yeah, but not to cut you off, and not Select should not discredit himself, because like Select was really good at finding new people online, and that's why like there was people like that never were really that big, like Purple Crush or other people, and Select would find these people and be like, hey, they're coming through town, let's do something with them. And like if we told our crowd it was cool, everyone was going to show up and fuck with it. And so Select created a lot of relationships with people that I had no idea who they were, and brought like a lot of new music to the table, because he was like always online chatting with people, just like chatting people up, you know?
Radio Clit too.
Oh, fuck yeah. That was so good.
Those fuckers stayed on my fucking, my floor in my apartment.
Dude, and before
so
we
did Purple
go,
Crush.
Radio Clit. Roxy, we did our own South by showcase in 2007, and it was really fucking fire. We had Blackjacks, who were on the cover of the Fader at that time, and we had Ghost Hustler, which was pre-Neon Indian. We had like talent scouts there, like trying to sign them.
I think
and
I was
we were
on that bill.
Yeah, you might have been.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember it being beautiful, and I was there.
Yeah, we tried, man. It was just like one of those things, like we were doing all those cities and we were, you know, it's hard for it to translate at South by, because there's so much going on. And where do you want to go? You want to go see us, or you want to go see Kanye at Fader Fort? You know what I mean? So, or whatever year that was. But it was fun. We had a good time, and that was a really good showcase. It was a really good opportunity too, because Blackjacks they had the cover of the Fader, and at that time the Fader could do no wrong.
Yeah.
You know, this is American Apparel V-necks, and this is Vice magazine and the Fader. Like that's all that really mattered. I feel like to most kids, because this is before iPhones, or iPhones are not iPhones what they are now. So shit, I haven't even looked at a Fader, and I can't even tell you. I don't even know if they're still around. You know what I mean? So, but that was cool, man. That was a good time.
Who were your like favorite performers or DJs
in that time period? I think one of my favorite parties was Pace Rock, because it was the after party for some sneaker thing, and we like literally got 700 people in the spot, and it was like
it was hype beast central.
It was on the stage, like the stage turned into a dance floor, and it was low ceilings, and there was literally people hanging from the rafters. I remember Pace dropping Don't Want Drama by 8-Ball and MJG, and there was people swinging off the rafters. And the crowd went from the stage, packed on the stage, dancing around the Red Bull DJ booth that Pace was on, to the back fence, and you couldn't move. Like the fence was outdoors, so there's an outdoor area, and that was completely packed, and the whole inside was packed, and it was just like the rowdiest fucking night. And I remember the people that we did the after party for, the sneaker thing, were like, we're gonna go another direction, because that wasn't hip hop enough. Again, with the shit and like this whole like fucking tired mentality, like, but he played hip hop. It's just like, because we were doing the party, like we were playing what we were known for, and like they didn't get it, but they were like, they knew. It's like they booked us off hype but didn't know what they were really getting into, you know. They like wanted more hip hop.
I think that what was really important too about the party was we were also light years ahead of throwing a party and it not being any kind of a race, which is a big issue in Texas, and it still is, sexuality, which is still an issue, financially, like whatever your status quo is. Like we just had that mix of everybody, and like I had a Vogue party one year for my birthday, you know, and so like I had Voguers at I think it's at the same place, Monkey Bar, Green Elephant, something like that.
Yeah.
But like we were bringing everybody together, and those kind of kids were like, they were so you know, the streetwear game was so homophobic at the time still, you know, like, oh no, bro, that's not our thing. And we got dudes, you know, we got guys like making out with each other wearing fishnets, you know, like tank tops, you know, mesh marinas and stuff. We're just like, yeah, it's a fucking party, you know. Bam, bam, bam. That's what I think that's another thing we can't like forget, that we also brought forward, especially like in a city like Dallas. Like we really brought a really diverse group and crossed a lot of lines and pissed off a lot of people. Yeah, because people in the streetwear game are so fucking homophobic. Whatever.
I think
Back then, at least.
Another thing that we did first was nightlife photography and posting that online. So like
in Dallas at least.
Yeah, in Dallas. I'm just saying, like in our area, like we were the first people to do like you know, candid photos of people partying, and then knowing that it was time sensitive, so we'd drop them the next day, and then everyone would fucking take those photos of our blog, and that would be their profile pic. It's like they were waiting for us to like drop that so they could have that photo. And like Scott said, like phone photos weren't that dope back then, you know, or whatever. So we had actual photographers, or we had like our own little digital cameras and like Polaroids and everything. We're scanning them in, and we're like putting this like fly ass shit up of people in the element at their favorite party, at the party. And then they were like, in turn, like it was just like the clock was ticking, like when are they going to drop those photos? And boom, there it was on our blog with like the recap or whatever. So I think that, you know, we kind of like set the tone there too. I mean, obviously not like we learned it from other places and saw other people doing it, but in our own market, we're like, we got to do this because this is important.
Are there any memorable or iconic any memories that really stand out for you guys and what you were creating back then?
I think for myself, it was it's a great foundation for what I've done and I've accomplished in the past, let's just say 10 years. I think that's, to me, I mean, it was a great time, young, just wilding out, having fun, doing all these new exciting things that nobody showed me the way. So we were learning along the way. We had a great time. But I think for me, the best thing is that it created the foundation for what I've done and who I am today.
Yeah.
I think the same thing. I don't know if I hadn't have connected with these guys at that time, if I ever would have been I wouldn't have been where I'm at, but I wouldn't have taken DJing to the level that I did. And so when Scott said everything was kind of the right time at the right place, I truly believe it was all like serendipitous in a way. And that I was like, even when I said I was nervous about these short tracks or whatever, I had to learn really fast. I knew how to mix fine, but I had to learn how to rock a party, because it went from just like casually being a DJ and doing like some hip hop shit here and there to, like I said, throwing to like, you know, hands up, 500-600 kids raging. So it made me like really take it seriously and progress as a DJ really fast, because I had to. So I think that, you know, without the party, there's no way I'd be doing this, and I wouldn't have experienced all these things that I've experienced and turned this thing that was always a passion into like an actual job. It was really a magical time in like the party world for me, like, is my view on it. I don't think that like that could ever be recreated, and not to sound like an old crotchety DJ, but like it keeps reoccurring. It was special.
Yeah. And it's not like we're old and crotchety. The fact of the matter is, if that is something is cool now, it'll be viral in a day.
Oh yeah, the way you reference what we did to what it is now is completely on a different level and a different page, for sure. Thank you for having us. Good to catch up and everything.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.